Hello. Hello, good evening. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. You're welcome to this week's FX review with Great White FX for the 18th to 22nd of September 2023. So, as always, we're going to start off with the economic calendar. So, looking at the economic calendar, we can see that Tuesday is going to be interesting for the Canadian dollar. Wednesday is going to be interesting for US dollar. We have FOMC on Wednesday, and we have rate news for the Swiss francs and for pound on Thursday, and some other news on Friday. But this week is going to be interesting. We have some high impact news coming in. So, as always, we're going to start off with NASDAQ. If we look at NASDAQ on the weekly, that's the US 100. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you all hear me and see my screen clearly? If we have a noisy background, let's keep our mics on mute, please. So looking at the US 100, price seems to be within a range. Price seems to be within a range. If you have a noisy background, please keep your mics on mute. Please keep your mics on mute. Price seems to be within a range. If you look at the previous week, stayed within this candles body. Stayed within this candles body. This next one also, and this the same thing. And price remained within this range. So looking at price now, let's go back all our drawings. This seems to be in a range. If you go into the daily, it becomes very, very clear. This seems to be within a range. Seems to be within a range. If we go down to the 4-hour time frame, if we go down to the 4-hour time frame, I seem to have a little challenge in my network connection. If we go down to the 4-hour time frame, we can see that we have a bit of a range. So going into this new week, the possibility exists that price may retrace if it doesn't sweep this low first. If this is because basically it's in a range of a bullish impulse. So this, if this does not drop, then it will draw into these fair value gaps here. These fair value gaps here. And if it gets rejected, then we may see it come for this low. Because as you can see, this high here has been swept. So this has been swept. So remaining this, so this might just retrace and drop back down to the downside. The next pair we're going to look at is the dollar index. Looking at the dollar index, for now, the dollar index still is still bullish, still tilted to the upside. But if we look at the dollar index on the daily, we can see that price is within this volume imbalance here. And you can see on Friday, price dropped and closed back above it. So most likely on the dollar index, the next draw is this swing high here at 105.87. But before that, we need to also note this volume imbalance here. So if price starts to rally before 105.87, we have 105.69. So we need to pay attention to that. So going into the new week on the dollar index, As long as price does not go below this lower part of this volume imbalance, what do I mean? Maybe close below it on a 4-hour or on a daily basis, then price may still move up to this high. So on the dollar index, you look for any retracement into this area as an opportunity to go long towards 105.69 or 105.87. That's for the dollar index. The next we're going to be looking at is the Euro USD. Looking at the Euro USD, order flow on this pair is still tilted to the downside. So we might see a bit of a retracement, because if we look at this on the daily time frame, we have a fair value gap here. So we might see a bit of a retracement into this fair value gap. And if this rejects price, then we may see price going for 1.0631, then 1.0577, then before 1.0516. So we need to see price rallying to here first and then a retracement to the downside. That's it for the Euro USD. Euro USD order flow for now is still to the downside. The next we are going to be looking at is the GBPUSD. The GBPUSD order flow on this is still tilted to the downside. It's still tilted to the downside. Price may still come down to 123.68. Price is not to sweep into this first. We prefer a retracement, and if that retracement should happen, we're watching this imbalance here, or this rejection block at 2440, 1.2440. Retracement rejection from here, we'll see 23.78 first, then 23.68. So GBPUSD order flow is still to the downside. The next we are going to be looking at is gold. Gold got to the projection of this range and the retracement was very strong. So which points to the fact that this might be a false break on price. If we look at this on the daily, we have a very significant swing here in play already on the daily. So what are we expecting this week? The possibility exists that this might still retrace higher. That is based upon the fact that price must not go back below 1915.34. It must not go back down below it. If it should retrace, it must not go back below this area, because the possibility exists that if it closes above here, we might see 1942.32. It might come up to this high. So for gold, gold is still a little bit mixed. We'll wait to see what they do on Monday, but I prefer if it should retrace, it should hold above 1914.48 for a rally. Then if it will continue back down, then it may. But for now, the break below this range seems to be false. As you can see, the massive correction that happened on Friday. So for gold, we'll wait to see what happens. But based on it, I'm of the opinion that this may still move correct higher. So the next one we're going to be looking at is the EURGBP. EURGBP, for now, order flow is still tilted to the upside. Order flow is still tilted to the upside. You can see that this closed as a big engulfing candle, but still below this fair value gap. There's been no close above this fair value gap. So going into this new week, we'll be expecting a bit of a retracement before, as we can already see on the file, we have a bearish order block here. And see, that was where price ran into and dropped. So going into this new week, we'll see a bit of a retracement and probably a move towards this 0.8630, then maybe towards this high. But for now, the EURGBP, the order flow is still bullish. So any drop on price into this fair value gap with a bullish evidence might be an opportunity for continued move higher in price. But we must bear in mind that we have pound interest news on Thursday. So that might be a significant factor in this. So the next we're going to be looking at is a pound yen. Looking at the pound yen, this is in a consolidation and it's tilting slightly to the downside. So going into this new week, we might see a bit of a retracement to the upside because as you can see, it's still in a range and it's not making new highs. Instead, it's making new lows. So any rally on this and a rejection might be a move for lower prices. So for the yen, pound yen, a consolidation is what we're looking at. So we just need to be a little bit careful on it. It can swing to any direction. But once it stays below 18.4.39, once it stays below here, possibility exists that we may see price come into this fair value gap here. Last but not the least, euro yen, still in the same consolidation. It's not making new highs. Instead, it's making new lows. So for this pair, we might see a retracement into this structure point, then a rejection that we might see it sweep 15.6.58 and then probably into this daily there's a fair value gap here into this structure point here. Sorry, it's on the 4-hour into this structure point here. So for this is still slightly tilted to the downside. So any questions? Any questions? Is there anything anybody want me to look at before we call it, before we bring the review to an end? Okay, in the absence of any question. Hello, any question?
No.
Okay. So in the absence of any question, like I said, for gold, we'll just still need to watch and see what it does. But this move on Friday shows that this might be a false break. So, and since it did make a new high, it might retrace a bit before going back up. But as long as it stays above 1915.34, the possibility exists that we might see gold move higher. So without taking so much of your time, I wish everybody a beautiful and lovely weekend and a blessed trading week ahead. Good night, everybody.
Good night.